Governance of a multi-cloud environment is a key component of any IT organization. And with the proliferation of clouds, as well as developers going and using different tools and different methodologies, it's become a huge challenge for enterprise IT. When it comes to governance, one key component is to know if standardized policies that are set are actually modified at some point as time goes on, and then do they go out of compliance therefore? So an important component is having a system that can identify and notify if a set policy is changed, goes out of compliance, and therefore needs to be remediated. So take a look at this segment and this demo with Jyoti Sharma, who walks through this challenge for customers and in a multi-cloud environment. We've got our policy now, right? We've got it stamped out. And is everything good at this point? Or what do we have to do next to make sure that it is enforced?
Yeah, so the very nature of the cloud infrastructure is super dynamic. So once these accounts are handed over to the developers, they start building applications, and that's when there are changes that are going to happen to the resources and the configurations. And it's possible that some of these applied policies, just because of the configurations have changed, there might be violations to these policies. So you need to be also able to continuously detect if there was a change and to bring it back to the desired state that you want. So the product also helps to continuously detect by such violations by applying an event-driven kind of a mechanism.
Mm-hmm. And I like the word that we use for this, drift. I always thought drift was like, at least as my teenager describes it, it's drifting a car, But the same thing happens in the cloud. The policies just kind of, once they're, although we've got the recommendations and the stamped out, right? Before you know it, it is so dynamic that they drift slightly away from it. So this next demo is going to show us how to detect that drift. Let's go ahead and run it.
That I have applied my template and my policy included in the template, I can go and see in my account through guardrails if the policy is actually being applied or not. And so I can go into the findings tab here and I can see a list of all my findings across all my accounts. And on the left tab here, I can actually traverse through my different accounts. In this case, I only have one account connected, but if you had multiple organizational units with different child accounts or member accounts, you would see them all listed down here in a hierarchy. And so if I go into my specific AWS account, you can see I have different types of findings, and you can see I have a finding for that password policy that I just enforced. If I go into guardrails, I can see what the policy is that I was trying to enforce, which was enforcing strong passwords, as we talked about. You could see the result, which is what guardrails found to be the problem and what it would potentially do if it wanted to remediate it. And so guardrails offers a suggestion of what you should do in this case. You need to update that password policy. And I can go into this view difference and actually see what the problem is. So on the left is the current state of your account. And in this case, this is what the current password policy is in your account. On the right here, you have your desired state. This is what you are trying to get to, and this is from the template that you just enforced. And so you can see we have a few discrepancies that we need to go and fix. So namely, we need to ensure that the required numbers, we had set it to false, so we need to go and change that. The maximum password age needs to be set to 30, minimum password length of 20 characters, and password reuse prevention. The past 24 passwords can't be reused as opposed to just 3. And so if I go into my IAM console of my AWS account, I can see that all of the current values are displayed here, which is what Guardrails is calling out as a drift. So I can change some of these, namely the password minimum length, we said should be 20 characters. We said we're not going to require any numbers. The password expiration is going to be a maximum of 30 days instead of 90. And lastly, we're going to disallow the reuse of the past 24 passwords. And I can save this change and set this as a custom policy, and you can see that my password requirements are now updated. If I go back into guardrails, I can see if this has been resolved or not. Simply, I can go into this desired state and I can monitor this immediately, basically telling guardrails to go and check that this has been fixed. And so that is going to run. I can go into the accounts associated desired states here. These are the templates that are being applied against the environment, and I can see essentially what the results of each desired state is. Okay, so a few minutes has elapsed. Essentially, we were waiting for the last run of the desired state to update. What this means is now I can go into the view results, and you can see that guardrails has checked for the enforcement of this template and the policy twice. And so this is the first run that we were looking at. This is what we initially saw as a finding because we had the difference, right, of a few parameters. That was the old state, and this was what we wanted it to be. And so now I ran that desired state again to see, okay, figure out if there is a drift. And now Guardrails is saying there is no findings, which is good. Essentially, this means that there's nothing different between the current state of the environment as well as what we have defined in our template. And I can go into the view diff and nothing will show. This is because everything remains the same, and so there's nothing to call out as a difference. And so that's how you can see findings. This was a very simplified example through Guardrails.